I'm Rudy Womack, and I'm the writer and director of The Suicide of Lillian Sellers.
Hi, my name is Amber Gould, and I was the producer.
Hey, my name is Brian Meyerhofer, and I had the privilege of playing Sellers in The Suicide of Lillian.
I played Hogan Aldridge, so I was Lily Sellers' best friend before she died.
The inspiration actually came from a lot of different places. It wasn't one thing in particular. I had read an article about someone who had OD'd with opioids, and it was ruled as an accidental death. And it wasn't until a couple of months after the fact that the family actually found a suicide note. And I thought that was quite interesting, and that kind of opened up the possibility to me that a lot of deaths that are ruled as accidental might actually be intentional. And so then naturally the filmmaker in me is like, okay, how can I turn up the drama there? And I thought it might be interesting to have someone who on the surface looks like they've committed suicide, but in all actuality, they were murdered. And the idea of opioids was pervasive throughout my looking into this. I'm from Wyoming, and in Wyoming, opioids and meth are a huge problem in our communities. And so I just started drawing off of a lot of my experiences growing up. I went to more parties than I should have that look a little bit like they do in the film. And I just started taking a lot of these elements and constructing together what I thought would be an interesting world to explore, and something that I feel a lot of people can relate to, but hasn't really been shown on the big screen very much. So as I started developing the characters and developing the world, I started realizing that there was a lot of potential for a great story here. And I wrote the short film with the intention of one day we're going to use that as a proof of concept to go and create a feature-length version of the film. The decision to make it a physical fight was part of the evolution of developing the story. Initially, when Nick Sellers finds Hogan in the first draft or the second draft or something like that, she was just doing keg stands. She wasn't even doing a fight. And then I started to think of actually how much pressure she is under, because we heavily imply that she was part of some kind of a drug ring and has since gotten out. And I decided that this kind of a person would be more akin to fighting than doing like keg stands like a college student. So I made her into a fighter, and then naturally from there it just made sense that if Nick Sellers was going to confront Hogan, he was going to have to quote unquote speak to her on her own terms, and that meant getting in the ring with her.
Lex Anderson came on, and he helped coach me on the boxing and on just other physical aspects of the character. And I think I weighed like 123 when we started prepping for it, and by the time we shot, I was pushing 140, and it was mostly muscle, which was kind of exciting. But yeah, I worked with him I think twice a week, and then I was also weightlifting a lot. And the month prior to the shoot, I was waking up, running 5 miles a day, and then lifting weights for an hour and a half and meeting with him and Brian, I think twice a week. So by the time we shot, we had a long list of food that we wanted once we were done.
Yeah, Lex was our stunt coordinator. He also played the bouncer in the film. And so, you know, Angela was already attached to the project and sort of beginning that process of transforming her body and getting ready and training. And when I jumped on, I think around like November-ish, you know, we had about 5 months to prep. And we knew that once we got on location, and in the little shed that we were shooting in, you know, we were going to have 2 days to knock this out. All the physicality, you know, there's a lot of dialogue within the fight as well, because it's an investigative, you know, interview type thing going on there. And so, I mean, a challenge for that was an understanding of there's such a heightened state in regards to performance that Angela and I both had to work on maintaining over the course of those 48 hours that we were in there, right? And there was a lot of thought on the technical aspects as well. I mean, obviously, you know, we had to understand where the camera was going to be at every moment, exactly where our punches need to be thrown. Safety was obviously the priority from the get-go, and you know, Rudy really emphasized that and made us both feel safe and feel like we had a voice in this collaborative effort, and that we were, you know, obviously behaving in a way that we were comfortable with.
Say it was fully choreographed. We have a video where he actually edited together in his living room. Everything was choreographed, not just between us, but with exactly what shots he wanted to. Mm-hmm. So we didn't just rehearse it. We rehearsed exactly what the shot list was going to be too. So that really helped.
Yeah, and I really want to give credit to Rudy on that, because he's put a lot of time in watching other fights and other films, and there was some copycat moments where we were stealing specific choreography, but Rudy knew exactly how he wanted it to look, how he wanted it to sound, what the shots were going to look like, what the edit was going to look like. Like, there was no guesswork in that, and I was really impressed by Rudy on that front, for sure.
It is a team effort. When you're doing something like this, it's not just a fight scene. As Brandon and Angela mentioned, there's a lot of dialogue inside of the fight scene as well. So it's kind of an interrogation, and there's a lot of emotional ups and downs. So I worked very hard with our stunt choreographer, Lex Anderson. I worked very hard with our cinematographer, Naeem Sarafi, in order to make sure that we hit all these beats. But there is a lot of credit to Brian and Angela with their performance, because it is not easy to remember 30, 40, 50 fight moves, execute it in a safe manner, and also give a genuine performance. And on top of that, there was the crowd and the police, which I have to give a lot of credit to Amber for. She did a lot of the heavy lifting with making sure that we had enough extras to fill out that area and make it look like a pretty good sized crowd. I think we had 50 extras. So I know Amber all week long was just juggling them, juggling the police, and on top of that, doing everything else that is thrown a producer's way. So because of that, I was able to have my creative elbow room to really get into the scene, so to speak.
For me, what was just really important was I feel like she was a character who could really easily fall into a kind of caricature, you know, with the purple hair, the tattoos, the fighting. So I really wanted to make sure that that I kept it out of that territory, and grounding it just in reality was the thing for me there. It's the fact that her friend died, and you know, we did have a lot of backstory on it, so I know the whole arc of what happens, despite the fact that a lot of it's just more nuanced in the film. And so for me, just knowing everything that happened and the fact that I was not responsible, but that obviously I'm carrying the burden of guilt, that was kind of the key to creating a really human aspect for her. Is the fact that, you know, I've been going around with so much guilt and so much shame, and I can't talk to anybody. And then this is a link to, you know, to the outside world, to this person that I missed so much, that I feel guilty for the death of. And, you know, he's coming in, he's kind of the one person I could talk to about it, but I can't talk to him about it. So I think just that, like, finding that missed connection there, and just this really, really strong desire to talk to him, but also, you know, where he's coming from, I can't really communicate with them. And I think, like, finding that frustration and letting everything, all the history and everything kind of bubble under the surface was kind of the key to really building the performance and building the character.
I would say, thematically, one of the first windows for me into this story and into this character was just a simple look at how good people can get involved in terrible circumstance and how that happens, and all the different forces and variables and relationships that are at play that bring that to fruition, in regards to Lily. And then I had to make sure that for me, building up, mass in regards to my relationship with Lily and what my point of view on that is and on who she is. And then in contrast, the relationship of the community that she found herself in, and Hogan, Angela's character, and everyone else involved. So having, a bunch of mass on top of each one of those POVs, like, really creates conflict, creates tension within me. So those were some of the initial places that I looked. But again, also thematically in regards to the opioid epidemic, I'm familiar with recovery, and, as you said, everyone's been affected by it in one way or another. And just exploring the humanity within that world, I found compelling. And then, one of the things that Rudy and I talked about very, very early on was, sort of the fish out of water vibes, which you get absolutely. And that was really important for us to communicate that as well.
Well, my main goal, as you said, is to develop this into a feature-length project. The nice thing about doing a proof of concept is, one, you have a proof of concept. You can show it to people. You can get them excited about it. It says that you are capable of getting things done. The other advantage to it is you kind of dip your toes in the water so you can see what works, what doesn't work. You can lean into things a little bit more. You can back away from other things if you need to. You can really judge how an audience is feeling with it. It's almost like a pilot episode, if you will. So that really helps with the development. I have talked with Amber about, if we were to do this, how much I would want to come back to Tennessee. And Amber has just been phenomenal. We couldn't have done the film without her. She did so much of the groundwork and so much of the heavy lifting. She's really the unsung hero of the piece. Yeah. So that would be my ultimate goal, is to return to Tennessee and actually shoot the feature.
It really is the perfect background. I really think that the location was just, I just fell in love with it. We fell in love with just everything about it, and it, because it's so real. I mean, we didn't need to add anything. Almost everything there was already there. I mean, trash can, there's a donkey and a trash can and 8 cops that were like, yeah, we'll be there. And
the cops are excited.
The huge standout for me in regards to this project was the culture and the atmosphere that was cultivated on the set. Obviously starting with Rudy and Amber and our AD. It felt really collaborative. It felt very artistic. It felt like, true indie filmmaking. And it was just a new experience in regards to the culture of a set, coming from TV or episodic television. I felt like I was able to, dig into a well of, my artistic sensibilities more so on this set than really any other project that I've worked on. And that felt phenomenal, and to be able just to have like a great, unbelievable team of talented people around too. It was just a blast. We just fed into that, so.
I mean, gosh, it was just, I guess I saw a lot of growth, I think, through all the people on set. And I think that was one of the coolest things, was that these police officers, they'd arrested some of these people that were on set before. There was a history there, and there was a lot of really cool growth that went on. Well, there was a storm and we all had to get inside of the thing one time while the police were there, and they had not really, it really was a cool opportunity where everybody was just on the same level during this storm, and the cops all of a sudden were talking to these kids, and it really was just a cool moment of growth. And I think from then on, everybody had this team mentality. So that was pretty cool.
I've always, every other character I've played has always had a more of a semblance of who I am as a person. And this was the first time I've really, built a character up from, just kind of from the script. And I mean, obviously I find parts of myself in it, but I've never had to put quite so much into something. And it was really exciting just to, the frustration that came with it, the excitement, all the physical stuff that we had to work on. It was really cool. There was a point when Rudy was watching I think it was when he was editing, and he's like, "You even walk differently," and that was kind of neat. I put a lot of thought into really building this person and making somebody that's who we thought she should be, and then finding the humanity in it, and just seeing how much I can do with the character. It was a really great exercise in acting, and it was really exciting. I'm glad I got the chance to do it.
I don't like to make the same film twice, so it's always an interesting experience moving from like a comedy to a drama or a drama to a comedy. This film was perfect all the way through. I had so much fun in the rehearsal. I had so much fun developing these characters with our incredible talent. I had so much fun traveling to Tennessee and working with Amber all the way from casting to the location scouting. It's the first time I've ever done a film of this scale this far outside of LA, so that was a rewarding experience, and I absolutely cannot wait for the opportunity to adapt this into a feature film.